Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the stars through the large window. His hands rested on the metal railing as he watched 12 strange ships approach. These alien vessels looked nothing like human ships. They were made of what appeared to be crystal and seemed to glow with their own light. The ships moved smoothly through space, their surfaces rippling like water. The UES Leviathan was different from these elegant alien craft. It was dark gray, made of thick metal plates welded together. Scars from old battles marked its hull. To anyone looking at it, the Leviathan appeared old and worn compared to the shining alien fleet. Lieutenant Pete Collins sat at his station, monitoring the communication systems. Suddenly, his equipment came alive with incoming signals. He turned to his captain with wide eyes. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the lead alien ship. They want to talk?" Morrison nodded slowly. "Put it through, Pete." The main screen flickered to life, showing the image of a tall, thin creature with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. The alien wore what looked like a uniform made of the same crystal material as their ships. When it spoke, the translation system converted its words into English. "Primitive beings of the metal construct, I am Admiral Kexthor of the Zephyrian Collective. Your crude vessel offends our sensors with its barbaric design." Commander Lisa Hayes, Morrison's second-in-command, stepped forward. She was the experienced officer who had served on many ships, but she had never encountered aliens before. Her jaw tightened as she listened to the translation. The alien admiral continued speaking, his voice filled with disdain. "How did such a backward species manage to achieve travel between the stars? Your ship appears to be nothing more than scrap metal welded together by amateurs." Behind the admiral, other aliens could be seen pointing at screens and making what sounded like laughter. The translation system picked up their words: metal coffin, primitive junk, and flying garbage pile. Lieutenant Amy Watson looked up from her tactical station. She was young but skilled at her job. "Captain, they're scanning us with some kind of energy beam." "Should I be worried?" "Let them scan all they want, Amy," Morrison replied calmly. His voice carried no anger, despite the insults being hurled at his ship and crew. Chief Engineer Ben Parker's voice came through the communication system from the engine room. "Captain, these aliens are running pretty deep scans on us. They're trying to figure out how our systems work." "That's fine. Ben, give them all the time they need." Admiral Kexthor turned to address his own bridge crew, apparently forgetting that the human communication channel was still open. "Look at this pathetic display of technology. Their vessel lacks even the most basic energy shielding. I doubt they understand the first thing about proper space travel." Dr. Carl Nelson, the ship's science officer, was quietly studying the alien vessels from his station. He was an older man with gray hair who had spent most of his life studying alien technology theories. Now he was seeing the real thing for the first time. "Captain," Nelson said softly, "their ships are definitely more advanced than our standard fleet technology. Those crystal hulls aren't just for show. They're some kind of advanced armor system." The alien admiral's attention returned to the humans. "Captain of the antique vessel, your ship is so primitive that I question whether your species understands anything about space warfare. Do you even have weapons on that ancient relic?" Morrison's crew exchanged glances. The captain remained perfectly calm as he responded. "We have adequate defensive capabilities, Admiral." "Adequate?" Kexthor's alien features twisted into what might have been a smile. "I seriously doubt that. Your technology appears to be centuries behind ours. I'm curious about something, though." "What's that, Admiral?" "I want to see just how inferior your combat systems really are. I challenge your primitive vessel to a demonstration against one of my escort frigates. Surely even you wouldn't be coward enough to refuse such a simple test?" The bridge fell completely silent. Lieutenant Watson's fingers hovered over her control panel. She had been tracking the alien weapons system since they arrived, and the readings were not encouraging. "Captain," she said quietly, "their smallest ship has energy weapons that read more powerful than our main guns. Their shields could probably stop everything we have." Commander Hayes moved closer to Morrison. "Jake, this feels like a trap. We don't know what they really want." Morrison studied the alien fleet through the view screen. The 12 ships had formed a perfect formation around the Leviathan. It was clearly a tactical position designed to surround and intimidate. "Mr. Collins, open a direct channel to Admiral Kexthor." "Channel open." "Sir?" Morrison straightened his uniform and looked directly at the alien commander. "Admiral, we accept your challenge. However, I suggest we establish formal rules for this demonstration. The alien's large eyes seemed to grow even wider. You actually accept? How wonderfully naive of you, Captain. Very well. We shall create a combat zone 1,000 kilometers from our current position. My frigate, the Stellar Shard, will face your... What do you call this museum piece? The UES Leviathan. The Leviathan. How perfectly appropriate for something so large and clumsy. Prepare yourself, Captain Morrison. This demonstration will be over very quickly. Dr. Nelson was still studying his sensor readings of the alien ships. Something about their design reminded him of theoretical papers he had read years ago. Papers about crystalline technology and energy manipulation. Captain, Nelson said, I think there's something you should know about their ships. The crystal construction isn't just armor. It's a complete energy management system. They can probably redirect power instantly between weapons, shields, and engines. Chief Parker's voice came through the intercom again. Captain, should I start bringing our main systems online? Morrison considered the question for a moment. Around him, his crew waited for orders. The aliens had made it clear they thought humans were primitive and weak. The Leviathan certainly looked old and battered compared to the gleaming alien vessels. Not yet? Ben. Let's see how confident they really are. Admiral Kexthor was speaking to his own crew again, apparently giving orders for the upcoming demonstration. The translation system picked up fragments of his commands. Minimal power, quick destruction, and teaching moment. The alien admiral turned back to the humans one final time before cutting the communication link. Captain Morrison, I'll give you one last chance to surrender and admit your inferiority. It would save us all the trouble of having to completely destroy your antique ship. Morrison smiled slightly. It was the first expression other than calm professionalism that he had shown since the aliens arrived. Admiral, you might want to run a more thorough scan of our vessel before you make any final decisions. More thorough? Why would I waste time on additional scans? Your primitive technology is obvious to anyone with functioning sensors. The communication link closed, leaving the human bridge in silence. Outside, the alien ships began moving into position for the upcoming combat demonstration. The crystal vessels gleamed in the starlight, their weapon systems already beginning to charge with visible energy. Commander Hayes looked at her captain with concern. Jake, are you sure about this? We're about to face technology that's clearly superior to anything in our current fleet. Morrison's smile grew a little wider. Lisa, sometimes things aren't quite what they appear to be on the surface. Trust me on this one. The alien fleet moved into formation around the designated combat zone. Admiral Kexthor's frigate, the Stellar Shard, separated from the main group and took position exactly 1,000 kilometers from the Leviathan. The crystalline vessel pulsed with internal light as its systems prepared for battle. Captain Morrison remained on the bridge, watching the alien ship through the main view screen. His crew worked quietly at their stations, running system checks and monitoring the enemy vessel. The atmosphere was tense but professional. Captain, Lieutenant Watson reported from her tactical station. The alien frigate is about half the size of our ship, but it's showing massive energy readings. Their weapons are definitely charging up. Commander Hayes stood beside Morrison's chair studying the tactical display. Their ship is beautiful, I'll give them that. But beauty doesn't win battles. Dr. Nelson was busy analyzing the sensor data from the alien vessel. His science station showed detailed scans of the crystalline hull and the energy patterns flowing through it. Captain, their entire ship appears to be one giant energy conductor. The crystal structure channels power throughout the vessel with almost no loss. Lieutenant Collins received another transmission from Admiral Kexthor. The alien commander appeared on screen again, looking even more confident than before. Behind him, his bridge crew could be seen preparing weapon systems. Captain Morrison, this is your final opportunity to withdraw from this challenge. My ship carries enough firepower to reduce your vessel to space dust. I'm offering you one last chance to preserve your crew's lives. Morrison's response was calm and measured. Admiral, we appreciate your concern, but we're prepared to proceed with the demonstration. Very well. Since you insist on this foolishness, let me explain the rules. This will be a formal duel between our vessels. First ship to suffer critical damage loses. No outside interference from either fleet. Understood. Admiral. Good. Prepare to learn why the Zephyrian Collective is feared throughout this sector of space. The communication ended, leaving the human bridge in relative quiet. Chief Engineer Parker contacted the bridge from the engine room, his voice carrying through the intercom system. Captain, do you want me to bring our main power systems online now? Morrison considered the question. Around him, his officers waited for the order that would begin combat preparations. The Leviathan systems had been running on standard power since their arrival in this system. Yes, Ben. Begin activating our primary systems, but do it slowly. I want our friends out there to have plenty of time to watch. Aye, sir. Beginning activation sequence now. Deep within the Leviathan, machinery that had been dormant began to come alive. The ship's hull grew noticeably darker as power flowed through conduits that had remained inactive during their peaceful approach to this system. Lieutenant Watson monitored the weapons activation from her station. Sir, primary guns are coming online. Shield generators are initializing. All defensive systems are responding normally. Dr. Nelson watched his sensors carefully as the ship's true systems began to activate. Captain, the aliens are definitely watching us. Their scans are intensifying as our power levels climb. On the main screen, the stellar shard could be seen adjusting its position slightly. The crystalline ship's glow had become brighter, and energy patterns were visible along its hull as it prepared for combat. Admiral Kexthor opened communications once more. His expression showed mild interest rather than concern. Captain, I notice your power readings are increasing. Are you actually going to attempt to fight back? How refreshing. We always fight back, Admiral. It's something of a human tradition. Tradition? Kexthor seemed amused. How quaint. Tell me, Captain, how old is your vessel? It has the appearance of something built by your ancestors rather than your current generation. Morrison glanced at Commander Hayes, who nodded slightly. The Leviathan was commissioned approximately 800 years ago, Admiral. There was a long pause. Kexthor's expression changed slightly, showing what might have been confusion. 800 years? That's impossible. No vessel can remain functional for such a period without complete reconstruction. You'd be surprised what proper engineering can accomplish. Admiral. Dr. Nelson was studying the alien ship's scanning attempts with growing interest. Captain, they're trying to penetrate deeper into our hull structure. It appears their initial scans only detected our outer layers. What are they finding, Doctor? That's the interesting part, sir. They're not finding anything. Our deeper systems are still hidden from their sensors. Commander Hayes understood immediately. The outer hull is designed to mask our true capabilities. Chief Parker's voice came through the intercom again. Captain, primary systems are now at 50% activation. Should I continue? Continue activation, Ben. Let's give our audience a proper show. The Leviathan's appearance began to change as more systems came online. The dark hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Energy patterns that had been invisible before started to become apparent to sensitive scanning equipment. Admiral Kexthor was clearly receiving new information from his sensor operators. His confident expression was slowly being replaced by uncertainty. Captain Morrison, your ship is different than our initial scans indicated. In what way, Admiral? Our sensors are detecting energy signatures that should not be possible from a vessel of your apparent technology level. Morrison smiled. Perhaps your sensors need recalibration. Lieutenant Watson reported from her station. Captain, the alien ship is backing away slightly. They've increased the distance between us by about 50 kilometers. Are they having second thoughts? Hayes asked. Unknown, but they're definitely taking us more seriously now. Dr. Nelson was analyzing the alien ship's movements. Captain, they're redistributing power throughout their vessel. It looks like they're strengthening their defensive systems. The stellar shard's crystalline hull was now glowing much brighter than before. Energy patterns raced along its surface as the alien crew prepared for what they clearly expected to be a more challenging fight than originally planned. Admiral Kexthor appeared on screen again, this time looking less confident. Captain, I'm detecting some unusual readings from your vessel. Perhaps we should discuss the parameters of this engagement more carefully. The parameters seem clear enough, Admiral. First ship to suffer critical damage loses. Yes, but I want to ensure we both understand what constitutes critical damage. Commander Hayes stepped forward. Admiral, are you having doubts about this challenge? Doubts? Certainly not. I'm simply being thorough. Chief Parker's voice interrupted the conversation. Captain, primary systems are now at 75% activation. The ship is ready for combat operations. Morrison could see the concern growing on the alien admiral's face. Whatever their sensors were detecting was clearly not what they had expected when they first challenged the seemingly primitive human vessel. Admiral, Morrison said, if you'd prefer to call off this demonstration, we'll understand. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. Kexthor's alien features hardened with determination. Absolutely not, Captain. The Zephyrian Collective does not back down from challenges, especially against primitive species. As you wish, Admiral. The communication ended, and both ships began moving into their final positions. The Stellar Shard's weapon systems were fully charged and ready to fire. The Leviathan appeared dark and menacing, its true capabilities still largely hidden from the alien scanners. Lieutenant Collins looked up from his communication station. Captain, the alien fleet is maintaining distance from the combat zone, but they're definitely watching everything carefully. I imagine they are. Pete, this should be educational for them. Dr. Nelson made one final check of his sensors. Captain, their ship is impressive, but it's also entirely predictable. Standard crystalline technology with plasma-based weapons. We've dealt with similar designs before. Morrison nodded. How long ago was the last time we encountered this type of technology, Doctor? Approximately 600 years ago, sir. During the Rigel campaigns. Admiral Kexthor's voice came through the speakers one final time before combat began. Captain Morrison, you have fought bravely by accepting this challenge. When this is over, I'll ensure your crew receives proper burial rites according to your species' customs. Morrison's response was quiet but confident. That's very thoughtful of you, Admiral. But I don't think that will be necessary. The two ships faced each other across the empty space of the combat zone. The stellar shard gleamed like a living jewel, its crystalline surface rippling with contained energy. Weapons ports along its hull glowed with building power as the alien crew prepared to demonstrate their technological superiority. The Leviathan appeared almost black against the stars, its scarred metal hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. To the watching alien fleet, it looked like an ancient relic facing a masterpiece of modern engineering. All stations report ready. Captain, Commander Hayes announced from her position beside Morrison's chair. Lieutenant Watson's fingers danced over her tactical controls. Sir, the alien ship is charging what appears to be a plasma cannon array. Energy levels are climbing past anything we've seen from their previous scans. How long until they reach firing capacity? Morrison asked calmly. Approximately 30 seconds, sir. Dr. Nelson studied his sensor readings with intense concentration. Captain, their entire ship is channeling power into the forward weapons array. They're putting everything they have into this first strike. Chief Parker's voice came through the intercom from engineering. Captain, our primary systems are standing by. Should I bring everything online now? Morrison considered the question for a moment. His crew waited tensely for the order that would reveal the Leviathan's true capabilities. Not yet, Ben. Let's see what they can do first. Admiral Kexthor's voice echoed across the communication channel. Captain Morrison, this is your absolute final chance to surrender. My weapons are about to fire and I cannot guarantee your survival. We appreciate the warning, Admiral. Very well. You have chosen your fate. The stellar shard's forward section erupted in brilliant light as multiple plasma cannons discharged simultaneously. Beams of superheated energy lanced across the space between the two ships, converging on the Leviathan's position with deadly accuracy. The human crew watched calmly as the alien weapons approached their ship. At the last possible second, the Leviathan's defensive systems activated automatically. The plasma beams struck what appeared to be empty space around the human vessel and simply vanished. No explosions, no energy discharge, no visible effect at all. The deadly alien weapons had been completely neutralized. Lieutenant Watson stared at her tactical display in amazement. Sir, their weapons never even reached our hull. Something stopped them about 50 meters from our position. Dr. Nelson was analyzing the defensive activation. Captain, our shield system engaged automatically when it detected incoming weapons fire. The aliens can't see our shields because they're using technology they don't understand. Admiral Kexthor's voice came through the speakers, filled with confusion and growing alarm. Impossible. Our weapons were targeted perfectly. There should be nothing left of your ship. Commander Hayes took over communications. Admiral, perhaps you should ask about our defensive capabilities before assuming we don't have any. Defensive capabilities? Our scans showed no shield generators on your vessel. Your scans were looking for the wrong type of technology, Morrison replied calmly. The alien admiral was clearly receiving urgent reports from his tactical officers. His voice became more strained with each transmission. Captain, Our sensors are detecting energy patterns around your ship that should not exist. What type of shielding are you using? Standard defensive systems, Admiral. Nothing special. Dr. Nelson smiled as he monitored the alien ship's increasingly frantic scanning attempts. Captain, they're trying to penetrate our shields with their sensors now. They can't understand how we're deflecting their weapons. Chief Parker contacted the bridge again. Captain, should I activate our offensive systems? We're still running on minimal power. Go ahead, Ben. Bring weapons online. Deep within the Leviathan, systems that had remained dormant began to awaken. The ship's hull grew even darker as massive amounts of energy flowed through conduits, designed to handle power loads that would destroy most modern vessels, Lieutenant. Watson watched her tactical display with growing excitement. Sir, our main guns are coming online. Power levels are climbing beyond normal operational parameters. How far beyond normal? Hayes asked. About 300% above what our current fleet considers maximum safe levels. Ma'am. Admiral Kexthor was becoming increasingly agitated as his sensors detected the Leviathan's rising power signature. Captain Morrison, what is happening to your ship? Our readings show energy levels that should tear your vessel apart. Our ship is designed to handle significant power loads, Admiral. Designed by whom? What species created technology capable of containing such energy? Morrison exchanged glances with his senior officers. We did, Admiral. Humans built this ship. That's impossible. No species develops such advanced technology, and then appears primitive to our sensors. Dr. Nelson was monitoring the alien ship's increasingly desperate scanning attempts. Captain, they're running deep penetration scans on us now. They're finally starting to detect our true systems. What are they finding, Doctor? That we're not what we appear to be. Their scans are showing them technology they can't classify or understand. The stellar shard began backing away from the Leviathan, its crystalline hull flickering with what appeared to be alarm signals. Admiral Kexthor's voice carried a note of genuine fear for the first time. Captain, our analysis indicates your vessel contains technology at least 5 centuries more advanced than anything in our database. How is this possible from a ship you claim is 800 years old? Time is a funny thing, Admiral. Sometimes old things are better than new things. Commander Hayes activated the tactical display, showing both ships to the alien fleet. Admiral, would you like to continue this demonstration or have you seen enough? Continue? Captain Morrison, I need to understand what we're facing here. Your ship appeared primitive during our initial contact. Chief Parker's voice came through the intercom with barely contained excitement. Captain, all weapon systems are now online and ready. We're operating at full combat capacity. The change in the Leviathan was dramatic. What had appeared to be a battered old warship now radiated an aura of barely contained power. Energy patterns visible only to the most sensitive sensors danced along its hull. Lieutenant Watson reported from her station. Sir, the alien ship is retreating to a safer distance. They've moved back another 200 kilometers. Are they planning to resume their attack? Morrison asked. Unknown, sir. Their weapons are still charged, but they're not targeting us anymore. Dr. Nelson was studying the alien vessel's behavior patterns. Captain, I think they're trying to figure out how to withdraw from this engagement without losing face. Admiral Kexthor opened communications again, his tone much more respectful than before. Captain Morrison, I believe there may have been a misunderstanding about the nature of this demonstration. What kind of misunderstanding, Admiral? We may have underestimated the capabilities of your vessel and your species. Morrison smiled. That's quite possible, Admiral. I would like to propose that we end this demonstration now before any actual damage occurs to either ship. Commander Hayes leaned forward. Admiral, are you conceding the challenge? There was a long pause before Kexthor responded. I am suggesting that perhaps the Zephyrian Collective should learn more about human technology before making assumptions about your capabilities. Chief Parker's voice interrupted the diplomatic exchange. Captain, if you want a demonstration of our offensive capabilities, I can show them what our main guns can do. There's an asteroid about 10,000 kilometers away that would make a good target. Morrison considered the offer. The alien fleet was clearly shaken by what they had witnessed so far. A display of the Leviathan's weapons might drive home the point that humans were not the primitive species they had appeared to be. Do it, Ben. Show them what we can do. The Leviathan's main gun swiveled toward a large asteroid in the distance. Energy built up in weapon systems that had been designed for battles against enemies the aliens could not even imagine. When the guns fired, the result was spectacular. The asteroid, roughly the size of a small moon, simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no debris field, just empty space where a massive rock had been moments before. The silence that followed was absolute. Admiral Kexthor's voice, when it finally came, was barely above a whisper. "Captain Morrison, I think we need to talk." The space where the asteroid had existed moments before was completely empty. Not even dust remained to mark where the massive rock had been. The alien fleet hung motionless in space, their crystal ships no longer seeming quite so impressive compared to the dark human vessel that had just demonstrated impossible destructive power. Admiral Kexthor's voice came through the communication system, shaken and uncertain. "Captain Morrison, that asteroid was over 50 kilometers in diameter. Our sensors detected no explosive residue, no energy discharge, no debris field. How is such complete destruction possible?" Captain Morrison remained calm as he answered. "Standard human weaponry, Admiral. Nothing particularly advanced by our standards." "Standard? You consider that level of destructive capability to be standard?" Dr. Nelson looked up from his science station, where he had been monitoring the alien fleet's reaction to the weapons demonstration. "Captain, all 12 of their ships are running intensive scans on the area where the asteroid used to be. They're trying to understand what happened to it." Commander Hayes studied the tactical display showing the positions of both fleets. "The alien ships have moved back even further. They're now maintaining a distance of over 5,000 kilometers from our position," Lieutenant Watson reported from her weapons station. "Sir, our main guns are cycling back to standby mode. All systems performed within normal parameters." Chief Parker's voice came through the intercom from engineering. "Captain, that was just a basic target elimination. If you want to really impress them, I could show them what happens when we fire all weapons simultaneously." Morrison considered the suggestion. "I think they're impressed enough for now. Ben, let's not overdo it." Admiral Kexthor opened communications again, his tone much more formal and respectful than it had been at the beginning of their encounter. "Captain Morrison, the Zephyrian Collective would like to request a formal meeting to discuss many things." "What kind of things, Admiral?" "To begin with, we would like to understand how a ship you claim is 800 years old possesses technology that appears to be centuries ahead of our current capabilities." Dr. Nelson smiled as he monitored the continued alien scanning attempts. "Captain, they're still trying to figure out how our weapons work. Their sensors can't detect any familiar energy signatures or particle emissions." Morrison activated the ship's communication system to address the entire alien fleet, not just Admiral Kexthor. "Ships of the Zephyrian Collective, this is Captain Morrison of the UES Leviathan. I'm willing to meet with your commanders to explain the situation, but first you need to understand something important. All 12 alien ships focused their attention on the human vessel. Morrison could see additional crystal ships appearing at the edge of sensor range, apparently called in as reinforcements by the Zephyrian fleet. The technology you've witnessed today is not new by human standards. The Leviathan was built 812 years ago, using what we considered standard engineering practices at the time." Admiral Kexthor's voice carried a note of disbelief. 800 years ago? "Captain, no civilization in our database has maintained functional vessels for such extended periods. Most civilizations haven't needed to," Morrison replied. "Humans have been expanding through this galaxy for over 8 centuries. We've learned to build things that last." Commander Hayes took over the conversation. "Admiral, the Leviathan is what we classify as a patrol vessel. It was designed to operate independently in potentially hostile territory for extended periods, without support from our main fleet." "Patrol vessel? This ship could destroy our entire fleet." "If necessary," Hayes agreed calmly. Dr. Nelson was analyzing data about the alien ships and their technology level. "Captain, based on our scans of their vessels, the Zephyrian Collective appears to be roughly equivalent to human technology from about 600 years ago." Lieutenant Collins looked up from his communication station. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from additional alien ships. It looks like word about this encounter is spreading through their fleet." "How many ships are we talking about, Pete?" "Currently monitoring 43 vessels, sir. More are arriving every few minutes." Admiral Kexthor's voice returned, this time with additional alien commanders speaking in the background. "Captain Morrison, I've been ordered by the Collective Council to ask you directly, what are humanity's intentions regarding Zephyrian space?" Morrison considered the question carefully. The alien fleet was clearly afraid of what they had witnessed, and fear could lead to poor decisions. Admiral, humanity has no hostile intentions toward the Zephyrian Collective. We're explorers and traders, not conquerors. But your technology, your weapons, are designed for self-defense against species that might threaten human colonies or shipping lanes. The galaxy can be a dangerous place. Chief Parker contacted the bridge again. Captain, I'm monitoring their fleet communications. They're discussing whether to call for additional reinforcements or attempt to withdraw from this system entirely. Commander Hayes understood the implications immediately. If they panic and try to run, it could create a diplomatic incident. Other species might interpret their retreat as proof that humans are aggressive. Morrison nodded. Admiral Kexthor, I'd like to propose something. Allow me to send a small team aboard your flagship to explain the situation in detail. I think direct communication would be more productive than long-distance negotiations. You want to board our ship? How would you accomplish that? Our shields are at maximum strength. Dr. Nelson smiled. Admiral, human transportation technology is quite advanced. Your shields won't be a problem. That's impossible. No known technology can penetrate Zephyrian defensive systems. Lieutenant Watson checked her tactical readings. Captain, their shields are impressive for their technology level. But they're using standard crystalline energy matrices. We've been dealing with similar systems for centuries. Morrison made his decision. Admiral, prepare to receive 3 human officers in your main conference area. We'll arrive in approximately 5 minutes. Captain, I cannot allow unknown transportation technology to penetrate our defenses. It would be too dangerous for my crew. Admiral, if we intended harm to your crew, we would have acted already. The fact that we're offering to talk should indicate our peaceful intentions. Dr. Nelson was preparing the transportation equipment while monitoring the alien ship's defensive systems. Captain, their shields are designed to stop physical objects and energy weapons. Our transportation method works on completely different principles. Admiral Kexthor consulted with his officers for several minutes before responding. Very well, Captain Morrison. But I warn you, any sign of hostile action will result in immediate retaliation from our entire fleet. Understood, Admiral. We'll be there shortly, Commander. Hayes gathered the necessary equipment for the meeting while Morrison selected the team that would board the alien vessel. Dr. Nelson would provide technical explanations, while Hayes would handle diplomatic aspects of the discussion. Lieutenant Collins monitored the alien fleet communications as preparations were made. Captain, they're definitely nervous about this meeting. Several of their ships are expressing concern about allowing humans aboard their flagship. Chief Parker's voice came through the intercom one final time before the diplomatic team prepared to depart. Captain, should I keep our weapons online while you're aboard their ship? Morrison considered the question. Keep them on standby, Ben. If something goes wrong, the Leviathan needs to be ready to protect itself. As the human diplomatic team prepared to transport to the alien flagship, the Zephyrian fleet maintained its defensive positions around the meeting site. Additional crystal ships continued to arrive, bringing the total alien force to over 60 vessels. Admiral Kexthor's final transmission before the meeting carried a note of both curiosity and apprehension. Captain Morrison, I hope this meeting will help the Zephyrian Collective understand exactly what kind of species humanity really is. Morrison's response was confident, but not threatening. Admiral, I think you'll find that humans are reasonable people. We prefer cooperation to conflict whenever possible. The transportation sequence began, carrying the human team toward what would become one of the most important first contact meetings in galactic history. Captain Morrison materialized in what appeared to be the main conference room of the Zephyrian flagship. The transportation had been completely silent and seamless, leaving no trace of energy discharge or dimensional disturbance. Commander Hayes and Dr. Nelson appeared beside him, their equipment cases materializing at the same time. Admiral Kexthor stood at the far end of a crystalline table, surrounded by 6 other Zephyrian officers. The alien's large eyes were wide with amazement as he stared at the human delegation. Behind him, his bridge crew monitored the meeting through internal communication systems. Captain Morrison, Kexthor said slowly, your transportation method completely bypassed our shields. Our sensors detected no energy signatures, no matter displacement, no dimensional rifts. How is this possible? Dr. Nelson smiled as he placed his equipment case on the crystal table. Admiral, human technology developed along different paths than most species. We focus on practical solutions rather than impressive displays. One of the other Zephyrian officers, introduced as Commander Veltar, leaned forward with obvious curiosity. Dr. Nelson, our scientists would be very interested in understanding your transportation principles. I'd be happy to share some basic information, Nelson replied. Though I should mention that what you've seen today represents relatively old human technology. Admiral Kexthor's expression showed confusion. Old technology? How old? Commander Hayes activated a small device that projected a three-dimensional map of local space. Admiral, this region represents approximately 15% of human-controlled territory. The Leviathan was assigned to patrol this area because it's considered a quiet frontier zone. The alien officers stared at the holographic display in silence. Commander Veltar was the first to speak. 15%? How large is your total territory? Humans currently maintain active colonies and installations in roughly 51,000 star systems, Morrison replied matter-of-factly. The silence that followed was profound. Admiral Kexthor slowly sat down in what appeared to be his chair, his alien features showing what humans could only interpret as shock. 51,000 systems. The entire Zephyrian collective controls fewer than 800 systems. Dr. Nelson adjusted his holographic display to show a wider view of the galaxy. Admiral, humanity has been expanding through this galaxy for over 8 centuries. We've had time to establish a significant presence. 8 centuries. Kexthor repeated quietly. Your species has been traveling between stars for 800 years. Actually, Hayes corrected, we've been traveling between stars for closer to 900 years. The 800-year mark refers to when we began building ships like the Leviathan. Commander Veltar studied the galactic map with intense concentration. These human colonies, are they all protected by ships like yours? Morrison considered how to answer the question honestly without causing additional alarm. The frontier regions are patrolled by vessels similar to the Leviathan. Our core territories have more advanced defensive systems. More advanced? Admiral Kexthor's voice was barely above a whisper. Dr. Nelson opened his equipment case and removed a small device that projected detailed technical specifications into the air above the table. Admiral, the Leviathan was built during what we call the first expansion period. Human technology has continued to develop since then. The technical display showed cross-sections of the Leviathan's internal systems, revealing the massive engineering that had gone into the ship's construction. The alien officers studied the projections with growing amazement. These power generation systems, Commander Veltar observed, they appear to be completely self-contained. How long can your ship operate without external support? The Leviathan's primary mission was extended independent operation, Hayes explained. It can function for approximately 200 years without requiring major maintenance or resupply. Admiral Kexthor stood up from his chair and walked closer to the technical display. 200 years of independent operation? Our most advanced vessels require maintenance every 6 months. Different design philosophies, Dr. Nelson said simply. We build things to last. Morrison activated another section of the display, showing the Leviathan's manufacturing capabilities. Admiral, if necessary, this ship can construct a complete fleet of vessels equivalent to your current technology, using only raw materials from local asteroids. Construct a fleet? In how much time? Approximately 8 standard days for 12 ships similar to your frigate. The alien officers exchanged glances that seemed to communicate shock and growing concern. Commander Veltar spoke carefully. Captain Morrison, are you saying that your single vessel could build an entire fleet in just over a week? If the situation required it, yes. Admiral Kexthor returned to his chair, apparently needing the support. Captain, I must ask a direct question. Does humanity consider the Zephyrian collective to be a threat? Morrison's answer was immediate and sincere. Not at all, Admiral. Your people seem intelligent and reasonable. We have no conflict with the Zephyrian collective. But if we had attacked your ship, the Leviathan would have defended itself, Hayes said calmly. But we would have preferred to avoid violence. Dr. Nelson closed the technical display and activated a different projection, showing various alien species that humans had encountered over the centuries. Admiral, in 800 years of expansion, humanity has met hundreds of different civilizations. We formed trade agreements with most of them. And the others? Some chose hostility over cooperation, Morrison answered. Those conflicts were resolved, and in most cases, peaceful relations were eventually established. Commander Veltar studied the display of different alien species. How many of these civilizations possess technology similar to the Zephyrian Collective? Quite a few, actually. Crystalline technology and plasma-based weapons are fairly common throughout this region of the galaxy. Admiral Kexthor's expression showed what might have been embarrassment. So humanity has dealt with our level of technology many times before. Yes, though each species brings unique innovations, Dr. Nelson said diplomatically.
Zephyrian crystal engineering appears quite sophisticated. The alien admiral was quiet for several minutes, apparently processing everything he had learned.
Finally, he looked directly at Captain Morrison.
Captain, what happens now?
How does the Zephyrian Collective proceed? After learning that we are vastly outmatched by human technology, Morrison's response was warm and reassuring. Admiral, we proceed by building a peaceful relationship between our species. Humanity is always interested in trade, cultural exchange, and cooperation. You would be willing to share technology with us? Within reason, yes. There are certain restrictions on military technology, but civilian applications are usually acceptable for trade. Commander Hayes added, Admiral, humanity has learned that peaceful neighbors are preferable to hostile ones. We have no interest in dominating other species. Dr. Nelson reopened his equipment case and removed several data storage devices. Admiral, these contain basic information about human history, culture, and general technology principles. Consider them a goodwill gesture. Admiral Kexthor accepted the devices with what appeared to be gratitude. Captain Morrison, I believe I owe you and your crew a formal apology. We approach this meeting with arrogance and ignorance. No apology necessary, Admiral. First contact situations are always challenging for both sides. Commander Veltar looked out through the conference room's viewport at the Leviathan, which appeared dark and imposing against the starfield. Captain, if your ship is 800 years old and considered a patrol vessel, what do your newest military ships look like? Morrison smiled. Admiral, I think that's a conversation for after our species have established formal diplomatic relations. But I will say this. Humanity has learned quite a lot about shipbuilding in the past 8 centuries. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Kexthor stood and performed what appeared to be a formal Zephyrian salute. Captain Morrison, the Zephyrian Collective would be honored to establish peaceful relations with humanity. The feeling is mutual. Admiral, the human delegation prepared to return to their ship, leaving behind a group of alien officers who would never again mistake age for obsolescence. The Leviathan had taught the Zephyrian Collective a valuable lesson about the dangers of underestimating potential opponents. As Morrison and his team materialized back on their own bridge, Lieutenant Collins looked up from his communication station. Captain, we're receiving formal diplomatic requests from 17 different alien governments. Word about this encounter has spread quickly. Morrison settled into his captain's chair with a satisfied expression. Set course for Earth, Mr. Collins. I think the diplomatic corps is going to be very busy in the coming months. The Leviathan turned away from the Zephyrian fleet and began its journey home, leaving behind a group of aliens who had gained a new respect for the dangerous old ships that humans had been building for 800 years.